we're a bit behind. First, I thank every presenter that did the 10 minutes today. There was a round, loud appreciation, a lot of applause, because it's tough to do. So you guys did a great job. I'm going to tell you a story about 30 years ago when I was at the Capital Markets Group City Corp. I had just finished the crew-based merger, and now we were working on the Carnation Nestle merger. And I forget if I was at City Corp Center, but I think it was part of the closings. What we were doing, we were the exchange agent, we did the proxies, we did the IR on the deal, and on Nestle's side, this guy I met, his name was Peter Fidelman. And hard-nosed guy, too. And anyway, the deal was closed, everybody was happy, and I remembered him. I guess it was a reason I didn't figure that one out until 30 years later when I met him again. And his comment to me was, Jim, I knew you when you had hair. So that was a hell of a way to start that conversation. But anyway, thank you. Anyway, the idea being is that the last 2 years, Peter and I have rekindled that relationship. We're doing some deals together. Peter is considered by many to be one of the most influential, most knowledgeable investment bankers on Wall Street. He's the managing director of investment banking for Griffin Securities. If you do a little homework and find out who Griffin is, you'll see just how reputable and powerful they are on the street. Today, Peter's going to give a speech about something every member and associate member knows about, and syndications. And I want to bring everybody back. When NIBA, which was RIS, was started, with the late great Bob Rader, Chet Paulson, Gary Bryant, Michael Fuhler, all the guys that really started NIBA and RIS back then, the intent was really for syndications of deals. And they were very successful at what they did. However, over the years, that concept kind of went away. And we've talked about it. I've kind of, the last 2 years, I've traveled pretty much the country, going to Denver, talking to Vicki and Nottingham Tucker and houses like that, going to New York 10 times a year, trying to see how that process of syndication can be rekindled. And so we've had many, many discussions about it. Recently, I've been doing a lot of talking with Peter about it, and I felt that it would be really good if someone of Peter's knowledge and experience on the street could sort of give us another education of why syndications are powerful. And he agreed to do that. I'm very proud to have Peter today. He's been a great confidant. He's been so wonderful in helping me put together some deals. But the most important thing that happened was Peter Fidelman became my friend, then meant more to me to anything. So with that, I'd like to introduce Peter Fidelman, Managing Director of Griffin Securities.
I actually did remember Jim Pop when he had hair. I want everyone to know he had a very full head of hair. But more than that, he had things that were below that hair. A little note about Nestle. Nestle decided back in the 70s that it would grow by acquisition and grow very quickly by acquisition. And so a very influential CEO said, why do we need investment banks? We should put together our own investment bank because I hate investment banks. So my first exposure to investment banks was when the CEO hated investment banks. So we'll go from there. Let me just say, and a good place to start this discussion is a little bit about Griffin. I'm very pleased to be at Griffin, and very pleased to work with Jim in my role there. But Griffin is a very focused investment bank. It is completely institutional and very focused on a small number of sectors. And as we work with clients, there has been a bit of envy that has gone on. And the envy was, gee, we wish we had some retail. And so as we work on syndications with other banks, generally on larger deals, the thought had occurred to me, and Jim and I discussed it, and he said, by the way, you're not very smart. We've been thinking about doing this long before you get here. And that is, how do we put together the strength which is NIBA and form a one which consists of many, which is much stronger than the individual firms themselves. And so, really, the question is, how can smaller independent broker-dealers really start putting together products that are very high quality for their clients and that are unique? So it's not just a me-too product, and then how can I achieve higher margins by doing it? Well, there's a formal syndication process that really is a commonplace in most of the larger banks, really when you're dealing with deals that are $50, $100 million or more, and that brings together, generally within the underwriting process, but also in the debt writing process, a series of banks, and they come together because they have different skill sets, reach, and more than anything else, they want added deal flow, and they want to minimize risk. So a formal syndication process that builds on this existing process that we saw here today, which is, let me show you a company, and perhaps we can get together, and I think be strengthened. And we can leverage all of this reach that you all have through 8,800 registered reps on the website. And that is a large reach deal of clients. And so you all have balance sheets and scales of distribution. And how do we bring that together to achieve a certain kind of efficiency, a greater deal flow, better deals? And so why do we form this syndicate? Well, one of the things we really want to do is formalize an approach to managing transactions. And today we go transaction to transaction very often, and we do it as a one-off. But how do we get a process that can streamline this, that can make it more of a kind of assembly line that you see at Merrill Lynch, that you used to see at Goldman, and certainly that we used to see at a place like Lehman. And how do we get to a point where we can do deals that are not just $5 or $10 million deals, but that are the $20, $30, $40, $50 million deals that Raymond James and Jeffries and those folks do? And how do we formalize that combination of all of your talents, all the skills, all the reach, all of the distribution that all of the firms have here, so that again, we can form a syndicate that combines all of those. But if we're working on larger deals, or if we're working on the kinds of deals that implicitly carry risks, how do we mitigate that risk? And one way we do that is by spreading that risk over all the syndicate members. Now, as we look through, and I'm just speaking and say, what are the kinds of instruments that you typically offer? And I would say if I went out to the group today, probably 90% of the deals that we sell are equity deals. But we all know that the world is much larger than equity. And my belief is that by putting together syndicates, that we can offer our customers very attractive new instruments that may better target their needs, their financial needs, their life needs, and that may include debt and hybrids, and a bad word, but really, not a bad instrument, and those are derivatives. Now, we see a fair number of deals at Griffin, and I would say that in an average month, we probably see something between 50 and 100 deals. And of those 50 or 100, we probably see perhaps 10 firms, and of those 10 companies, we probably have one, maybe two, sometimes on a good month, 3 clients. But how do we generate that into a much larger pipeline, and so we can streamline that process without losing the relationship banking that Griffin does, and that Griffin will continue to do in the future that I think you share. And that is by distributing some of the work over a syndicate. So it's not just your firm or my firm or someone else's firm carrying the entire load, but now distributing it and creating a pipeline of deals that we can put through all of us. And again, my thought is that this pipeline can really include larger deals. I don't know if your experience parallels mine, but in my experience, doing a $50 or $100 million deal with a more sophisticated management team, a better finance group, is easier for me than doing a $5 million deal with a younger company with less history and perhaps a very aggressive, very good management team, but perhaps one that's not as experienced and certainly not as seasoned.